What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing all 4 forms of Castform in the Open Great League since Weatherball of course was buffed this season, and for anyone that doesn't know, you can't use multiple forms of the same Pokemon on the same team, meaning I couldn't run a triple Castform team. That means there's going to be 4 different teams featured in this video, but for each team I'll be pairing Castform with another Pokemon that learns the same type of Weatherball. Now I'm going to be showcasing 6 battles with each team, so it will be a longer video than usual, but I'm hoping you can get a good understanding of how each Castform plays and potentially decide if any of these forms are worth building for yourself. Anyways, with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Before watching the battles, if you had to rank each Castform from best to worst, with 1 being the best and 4 being the worst, what order would you have them in? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading with a Meowscarada. This is going to be the Sunny Castform team, and this is a decent matchup for us, but I will be swapping out. I tried to catch an Icicle Spear, does not work out for me, and so the opponent is going to throw some energy. The opponent going to go for a bait with the Icicle Spear before swapping into Unova and Stunfisk, but we've got Solar Beam for coverage. We are full sending it. The opponent doesn't respect the damage. We get the one shot right off the bat, and now they come in with a Clodsire. We're already at nearly back-to-back Weather Balls here. Gonna fire off the first one. First one gonna be no-shielded, and we reach a second Weather Ball before they do throw some energy. Weather Ball number 2 gets them fairly low here. They still have not used a shield. They are going to throw just before we reach a third Weather Ball. Stone Edge gets the KO from that range, but Meowscarada did bank a Night Slash before I swapped out, so I'm going to go for it straight away as they are in Night Slash range. Night Slash is going to grab a shield from the Clodsire as they will throw a charge move. The opponent goes for Stone Edge. Stone Edge KOs from that range, but we can come in with the Castform. Now here I will be firing off the Weather Ball before they do reach the next charge move. Weather Ball is going to grab the final shield, and now of course I'm going to respect the damage. The opponent is going to full send the Earthquake. They swap back into Shadow Wall Rain. I'm going to look to overfarm throw just before they do reach another charge move. Weather Ball gets the KO there. They come back in with the Clodsire, but of course they're in range where a single Weather Ball will get the KO. I'm able to take out the Clodsire, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's upon there into next battle. We can see a Shadow Scizor in the lead. So, of course, not a great matchup for me. Going to be safe swapping into my Shadow Kanto Ninetales, and I'm going to look to fight for switch advantage here. Of course, if I can take out the Corsola here and align my Castform to the Scizor, even if I've got like a 2-0 shield disadvantage, I should still be looking okay. But, of course, it does depend on what their third Pokemon is. Either way, I'm going to fire off the Weather Ball. We did grab a very early shield here, and the opponent going to be throwing on poor timing, meaning now I can shield up the next Nightshade, go for a Weather Ball here. Weather Ball might grab the final shield from the opponent. Weather Ball does grab that final shield, but will a Weather Ball put them into Ember Farm Dam range? It's going to be close, but it doesn't quite. But actually, Shadow Ninetales able to hang on there, living the Astonish damage, gets the KO. We've got all shields down. They come back in with the Shadow Scizor. We come in with Sunny Castform. Their final Pokemon is a Dunsparce, and whilst Meowscarada will not win this matchup being slightly behind on energy, it doesn't really matter. We just need to put them into range where a single Weather Ball will get the KO, and of course, Frenzy Plant gonna be putting them into that range. They do throw straight away. Of course, from this range, Rockside takes out Meowscarada. We can come back in. I'm gonna look to overfarm just a little bit here. These rollouts, they're non-stab. Castform pretty bulky, so we're not taking much damage here, and whilst the opponent does force a CMP tie, it does not matter. Night Slash doesn't do much damage, but of course, Weather Ball is going to be double super effective. It easily takes out Shadow Scizor, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle. You can see Meowscarada into Fortress, so the bad leads continue. We're going to be swapping into our Ninetales. The opponent stays in initially before swapping into Bastiodon, and this is not ideal for me. Of course, some Ninetales do run Scorching Sands. That would be great for me in this matchup. However, unfortunately, I am not running Scorching Sands. This time, I'm going to full send a Solar Beam, recognizing it's going to do huge damage, but it still doesn't quite put them into range where this Weather Ball will KO. So the opponent actually happy to just no shield there. That is a a very smart play on the opponent's end. They don't need to use shields. They also give very little farm to my Meowscarada. So I'm going to swap out straight away into Castform. Their final Pokemon is Azumarill. Now, if I'm able to land a Solar Beam or bait with a Weather Ball and have it shielded, we could flip this matchup here. We do still have play. You know what? I'm full sending Solar Beam. Solar Beam is unfortunately shielded the first time around. And as well, whilst of course, yes, their charge moves are going to be resisted, I kind of need to shield them anyways. Once again, I'm full sending the Solar Beam, and again, unfortunately, it does get shielded. So here I do swap out and make the catch, catching the Ice Beam. Does that really help me here? At this point, they swap back into Fortress, and I'm in a tricky situation. If I stay in there, look to overfarm more than that, they can go for Rock Tomb, debuff my attack, and at that point, Solar Beam would not get the KO. Honestly, Solar Beam might not KO the Azumarill from that range anyways, but either way, unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up in there, into next battle, a much better lead for us, and especially since they say swap into a Sableye, Meowscarada still in a positive matchup for me, especially since I am very far ahead on energy. At this point, I will be shielding. I will respect the damage from a potential Power Gem or a Dazzling Gleam. The opponent is going to bait. Don't really care. I'm just going to go straight for a Frenzy Plant. I look to throw on the CMP time with a Foul Play, but the opponent doesn't throw straight away. At this point, they're going to come in with Pangoro. I'm swapping into my Shadow Ninetales. And you know what? If they go for Close Combat, that's fine with me. Close Combat does big damage, but I can tank it. And I predict they're going to come back in with the Hypno. So I go for one extra Ember. I fire off the Weather Ball. And we're still in a decent position here. Now, the opponent can CMP time me here, but instead, I'm actually going to overfarm. I'm going to farm up to back-to-back Night Slashes, and actually slightly more than that, so I have a Night Slash and a Frenzy Plant to throw, because, of course, I don't expect them to shield here. Night Slash is going to get the KO. We actually get the boost, but it doesn't really matter. I swap into my Castform. I'm forcing them to go straight for a close combat. However, Castform, very bulky. We tank that. We can go for a Weather Ball, and the opponent will need to fire off a Night Slash to take me out here. Otherwise, I'm going to reach yet another Weather Ball, and because they went for close combat, they've debuffed their defense, it gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to opponent there, into the next battle. We see Feraligatr in the lead, so another positive matchup for Meowscarada. The opponent is going to choose to stay in, at least initially. They're going to go straight for a Hydro Cannon, so potentially double weak to Meowscarada, and that chip damage does actually get us very low. I'm going to fire off the Night Slash. Night Slash, going to get the KO there. They come in with a Shadow Typhlosion, or sorry, a non-Shadow Typhlosion, I believe that is. We are now going to see a Credilli. I'm going straight for Weather Ball. Weather Ball number 1, going to be no shielded by the opponent. I'm going to go for a Weather Ball number 2 here. And Weather Ball number 2, usually Credilli users love to shield, but this opponent choosing not to shield either charge move there. I'm going to let the Rock Tomb take me out. Going to come back in with my Castform. I'm going to look to throw here on CMP, but somehow we must have had one turn bring in lag there, which means we don't get to the charge move, and that is really bad for me. I could have won CMP there, fired off the charge move, forced a shield from the opponent. We do still grab a shield, but of course, I'm now debuffed, so I swap out, I clear the debuff. The opponent's still not throwing any energy with their Typhlosion, and the fact they're non-shadow is actually huge in this matchup, because it means a Solar Beam will not get the KO. So what I need to do here is I need to land a Solar Beam and a Weather Ball to take out this Typhlosion, but unfortunately, Solar Beam does big damage. We don't quite reach another charge move there. Of course, if I got off one more Ember up against the Credilli, instead of lagging by one turn, I could have won that game, but unfortunately we didn't, and so I do lose there. But GG's up in there, into the final battle with this team. We are going to see an awful matchup for me in the lead, Talonflame. We're also safe swapping into our Shadow Ninetales. We're going for Weather Ball. Weather Ball does decent damage there, and we can reach a second Weather Ball. Now, Weather Ball number 2 won't quite get the KO, but I don't think the opponent can commit to a full Mudslap farm down. So this point, of course, I'm going to let the Bone Club take me out. I'm going to come in with Meowscarada, go for the farm down, and because we threw one Leafage first before we swapped out, I'm going for 2 more now, fire off a Night Slash, and I need that damage to land, because unfortunately Castform can't really deal any damage in this matchup. But since we've now landed a Night Slash, we will eventually put them into range where a single Weather Ball will get the KO. Now, Weather Ball is actually going to be shielded by the Talonflame, and the opponent staying in with that Talonflame, they must be weak to Castform in the back. So we're going to shield the fly. I'm going to go for 2, fire off the Weather Ball here, and we do have back-to-back charge moves, meaning the opponent has to throw straight away. So we swap into Meowscarada. Was that the correct decision. Fly gets the KO. We come back in with the Castform. We're looking to massively overfarm. We eventually fire off the Weather Ball. Weather Ball gets the KO there, and it absolutely was the right decision as they've got Shadow Bomber Snow in the back. Weather Ball gets the one shot, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle, and team number 2, we have got the Rainy Castform. We're going to be safe swapping into Castform this time around. The previous team, we safe swapped into Ninetales. However, I feel like Castform is a safer swap here, and we're seeing that in this first battle as we're met with a Water Gun Lantern, a Pokemon that completely walls the Pelipper. But if they commit to a farm down here, I'm going to reach a Thunder and a last second Weather Ball, and this might even put Lantern into range where I can come in with Dragalge. I don't need to throw any charge moves, and instead just commit to a full acid farm down. The opponent fires off the Surf there, doesn't do much damage. Of course, I do completely wall the Lantern's energy. If they go for a Thunder, that's fine with me. Still not going to do too much damage, and yes, we can go for that full acid farm down. They're going to come in with a Kanto Marowak, so I'm going for one acid, firing off the Alcatel. We actually grab a shield there, but it's a non-shadow, so unfortunately, if we throw a Weather Ball on the CMP tie, this won't quite get the KO here, and the opponent recognizes that, and they do no shield. Rock Slide is going to do big damage. It will put me into range where they can just peck farm me down, so we're going to shield that up there. I'm waiting for the opponent to throw, but they do look to overfarm, so instead, going to fire off Weather Ball number 2. Weather Ball grabs the shield. I'm able to swap. I wasn't actually trying to make the catch there. I was trying to fire off the Arctel, but I realized if I shield here and they've got back-to-back charge moves, that could be quite tricky for me, so instead, what we're going to do, I'm going to shield the Drill Peck here, and then I will be able to outpace them to the next Weather Ball. And of course, Weather Ball from this range gets the KO. We can just Water Gun, farm down that Kanto Marowak, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there into next battle. We're going to see another Shadow Scizor in the lead. So, we're going to be safe swapping into our Castform, and the opponent is going to choose to stay in this matchup. So, I can just barely, by one turn, outpace them to a Weather Ball before they reach a Trailblaze. The opponent baits with a Night Slash before swapping into a Credilli, but it's okay, we can fire off another Weather Ball here, and Weather Ball is going to do okay-ish damage. It is neutral damage. The opponent is going to overfarm, but just by a single fast move. So Grass Knot gets the KO there. We can come back in with Dragalge, and we are once again going to lag by one turn, meaning I don't get off the Aquatail there. I wanted to get that off before I'm debuffed because I'm not that confident that Aquatail will get the KO now because I have been debuffed. So let's see, Aquatail actually going to be shielded there. You know what? I'm going to shield as well, but I'm actually going to swap out straight away into Pelipper. The opponent swaps back into Shadow Scizor. I was predicting the opponent would swap back into their Scizor. The opponent going to go for another Night Slash there, but they get the boost, so they're dealing huge damage despite being resisted there with the bullet punches. They come back in with Credilli, but we get the Water Gun farm down, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Blastoise. This is going to be very close. Hurricane, big damage, but they actually didn't farm me down there, but we are just barely able to reach a last second Focus Blast with Dragalge. Focus Blast easily gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there into next battle. We see a Gligar in the lead. So actually, this is a matchup where we don't need to swap out straight away because I am, of course, resisting the Fury Cutter damage. It's non-stab. It doesn't do that much damage. I'm going to land the Aquatail and then swap out into my Castform. Now, we do bait out the Dene, which is really important because I do have Pelipper in the back. We're also able to grab a shield advantage with, of course, the Weather Ball. The opponent fires off Parabolic Charge. That doesn't quite get the KO there, which is a bit unfortunate for me, as that does allow them one extra Thunder Shock. But the opponent is going to fire off a charge move. I can live a Play Rough here, so I'm actually going to no-shield this. Play Rough does decent damage, but we are going to look to farm up to back-to-back Aquatails before firing off the first one. Aquatail gets the KO. I'm going to swap out straight away, and what the heck? The opponent's final Pokemon here is going to be a Blastoise, so I'm going to no-shield this as I can tank a Hydro Cannon. However, unfortunately, these rollouts are what's adding up over time. Now here, I'm not going to bait. I'm full sending the Hurricane, and unfortunately, it does get shielded, meaning I'm not even going to reach a Weather Ball here before they do reach another charge move. I'm actually going to save both my shields for Dragalge, but we are incredibly low. Rollout, non-stab, not doing too much damage here. Honestly, I'm hoping the opponent swaps back into the Gligar, but they don't. They stay in with the Blastoise. So farm up to back-to-back Aquatails, and Aquatail, of course, going to win CMP in this matchup. I don't have much HP remaining, but can we reach a last-second move? Just barely not able to do so. Honestly, that was closer than I thought it was going to be. Dragalge nearly hanging on in there. But either way, into the next battle. GG's to that last opponent, by the way. We're going to see a Bastion in the lead, and you know what? We've got Focus Blast. We are absolutely full sending it here. Focus Blast is going to be no shielded, but it actually doesn't quite get the one shot there. That is honestly quite depressing there, but we can come in, we make the catch onto our Castform, which is pretty bulky. The opponent gonna go straight for Rage Fist. Rage Fist does not get the KO there, so I'm able to reach a last second Weather Ball, and Weather Ball probably grabs a shield from the Primeape, and it does exactly that. Now, they farmed up to a potential Ice Punch. Regardless, I'm going to shield anyways, and they do actually full send the Ice Punch. And now I can overfarm just slightly more here. Fire off the Arcatel. Arcatel actually going to grab the final shield here, so I don't know what they've got in the back. I wasn't going to commit a shield, but since they shielded, I thought, you know what, Dragalge must have play, but they've actually got Malamar in the back, so that shield usage on the opponent's end didn't really make an awful lot of sense there, and honestly, kind of tricked me into using a shield, so fair play if that's what they were intending to do there. But of course, the opponent is going to outpace me as Water Gun, not the fastest energy generating fast move, but we do have energy on Dragalge. So here, we're going to fire the Arcatel. We do overfarm quite a bit here, and we are very low, but we can reach another Arcatel into the Bastion, and I believe Primeape is in range where a single Acid will get the fast move farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there into the next battle. You can see Dragalge into another Shadow Scizor. So once again, going to be safe swapping into Castform. This time met with Azumarill, and this is actually a positive matchup for me as I'm going straight for a Thunder. Now, Thunder is going to connect. It does big damage there, but I'm actually not certain I've put them into range where if I go straight Water Gun, if I can get the KO with another Weather Ball. So here, I actually don't throw the charge move. Yeah, surely not. Weather Ball would not get the KO from that range as it is resisted. However, unfortunately, I do end up going down a shield. So here, I'm going to fire off the Weather Ball. We do have back-to-back, so if they come back in with the Scizor, I probably should be able to grab a shield with the next Weather Ball, and so we're going to fire off straight away. Weather Ball does grab the shield back from the opponent, so not the worst case scenario. We're now going to come in with the Pelipper, and I'm going to no-shield the first charge move. The opponent going to go for a Trailblaze, boosting up their attack there, and I'm in a tricky situation. I'm going to fire off another Weather Ball. Weather Ball number 2 grabs the final shield there. We actually get a simultaneous KO, but the opponent staying in because they had a Gastrodon in the back. And that is really unfortunate for me. I'm going to shield this. We might still have play, but Focus Blast, I mean, it didn't even one-shot a Bastion. Surely it's not going to get the KO from this range. We're full sending anyways. And Focus Blast honestly did more damage than I was expecting, but unfortunately, they can reach a last-second Body Slam. It takes out Dragalge, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there into possibly the final battle with this team. We're going to see a Furret in the lead. So once again, a Pokemon weak to Focus Blast, and we might as well full send it. The opponent is going to outpace us very comfortably to the Swift there, but you know what? We're going to full send it. Are they going to respect the damage here? Focus Blast is not respected. Once again, it does huge damage. It actually gets the one shot this time around. They're going to come in with a Shadow Drifloon. I'm swapping into my Castform straight away, firing off the Weather Ball. Weather Ball is going to grab a shield there, and they might look to go for an Icy Wind, in which case, if they do, I should be able to tank this. It's non-stab. It also, of course, is resisted damage, so I do reach a second Weather Ball. Weather Ball number 2 is actually going to grab the final shield from the opponent, which is very interesting. Potentially weak to water in the back. So here, I'm definitely going to shield this. They likely go for another Icy Wind, and they do, but that's okay with me. The opponent's going to swap into their final Pokemon, a Tinkaton, and this is okay with me. I'm going to swap out. I tried to catch a play rough there. Does not work out for me. I will force them to use some energy, but they can just settle for a Bulldoze, which of course is cheaper, but I did also clear the debuff to my attack there, which is what I needed to do with my Pelipper. I'm going to shield this. The opponent does full send a play rough there. I'm just going to farm up to back-to-back Weather Balls, so if they do try and make a catch, it doesn't make a difference. Weather Ball gets the KO there, but we have a second Weather Ball already loaded, and from this range, Weather Ball takes out the Tinkaton, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next team here. We are going to have the the snowy Castform. We're leading into Carbink, and here I actually got a knock on the door, so I went to the front door, and apparently my Wi-Fi kind of dropped out there, which means, unfortunately, we lost a lot of fast moves. I don't really know how much energy they've got, and Carbink is also incredibly problematic for my backline, so I am just going to shield there. But like I mentioned, I actually don't know how much energy they have, as I also wasn't really looking at the screen either. But either way, we're going to fire for the drill run there, and I'm pretty much forced to double shield here, as the opponent is going to fire off another rock side. I'm now going to look to overfarm just a little bit. I'm actually not sure if I go for the drill run here, if I can reach another one, but the opponent is going to no shield, and we just barely get the farm down. Now I swap out straight away, and they've actually got a primate in the back, so I needed it aligned to my Castform. But Castform, can we still put in the work here? If they full what the hell? Why can't I talk? If they full send a close combat, we just lose this game, but the opponent baits for no reason whatsoever, meaning I reach the weather ball. Weather ball doesn't quite get the KO there, so I actually allow them to farm me down, because now I'm forcing them to throw. The opponent will be going for the charge move. They go for another Rage Fist. Now we come in with the Auroras here, and they will not reach a Frenzy Plant. We do CMP tie them. This is just going to be a Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb is super effective, and it does drop my defense there, but of course Weather Ball gets the KO, and whilst Karate Chop is double super effective, we had a debuff to our defense. I'm able to tank it, and one more Powder Snow gets the farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see a Goodra in the lead. Going to be safe swapping into our Castform, and unfortunately, this is definitely the worst Castform in terms of coverage, because it literally does not have any coverage at all. It's only got Ice-type moves here, so we are going to go for, well, we went and full sent the Blizzard there. It did connect, and we do get them fairly low, but not that ideal for me. I'm going to come in with the Sea King. I'm going to look to no shield and then commit to a full farm down, hoping Auroras can sweep in the end game. The opponent fires off the Rock Tomb there, debuffing my attack, but they're going to come in with a Gastrodon, and that is certainly not ideal for me. Gastrodon easily tanks an Icy Wind there. They do swap out, they clear the debuff, but they're going to have Aqua on this Goodra, and if not, then they've got like Power Whip or something, but they have Aqua there. I can't really overfarm by too much, as they are just so spammy to the charge moves. Well, Ball gonna be no shielded. Smart play on the opponent's end there. Just save both their shields for the Gastrodon, and there's just not a lot I can do. But we are still trying to play this out. We're gonna farm up and fire off back-to-back Weather Balls. First one, grab the first shield. Second one, grabs the second shield. But I'm just not gonna reach another charge move. So of course, Body Slam takes us out there. I don't bother shielding, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see a Primate in the lead. So, an actual decent matchup for the Sea King here, as we do have Peck. However, of course, it's not that dominant for us. I'm going to have to shield. They full send a close combat, but they swap into Shadow for Alligator. And for Alligator is also problematic for my backline, so I don't really know what to do here. So what I'm going to do, I assume they're going to try and throw on CMP. So I actually swap out. I'm able to catch the move, but they're on Crunch there, and Crunch is going to drop my defense, meaning Hydro Cannon definitely gets the KO from this range. So really tricky situation to be in. I'm already down a shield, couldn't really afford to double shield here, as we've got Aurora, which now still has the threat of that Primate, but they do swap out there. They don't allow the farm down. We go for Icy Wind. Icy Wind grabs a shield, and with that debuff, potentially I can live a drill run, as it is non-stab. I'm going to shield the first one anyways as they fire off the drill run. I'm going to farm up very close to back-to-back charge boost here. Weather Ball is going to grab the final shield from the opponent, and at this point I realize I have to commit to a farm down. The opponent very likely goes for drill run and then swaps back into their Primate, so I go straight for the Weather Ball here. But Weather Ball gets the KO, but their Karate Chop damage registers. I'm forced to swap out, but we kept the Peck farm down, and we come out with the Icy Wind loaded. Icy Wind takes out the Pharaoh, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. I'm going to see a Shadow Talonflame in the lead. So this is definitely where we want to see it for this team. Of course, Auroras with all shields down can just easily one-shot them with a Meteor Beam, but in, well, matchups where they've still got both shields, it is a little bit of a tricky situation. Here, I'm going to shield. They go for a Flame Charge, actually. We're looking to boost up their attack once again after I've just debuffed them with the Icy Wind. The opponent is going to double shield the Talonflame, so I'm actually going to look to double shield my Sea King as well, as I just don't really want it aligned to my Aurora. So we are going to, sorry, not aligned to my Aurora, aligned to my Castform. Either way, we're going to go for the Icy Wind. We get the KO there. They're going to come in with Credilli, and I really should be swapping out of this matchup. I realize that Castform is very bulky. We should be able to tank a Rock Tomb, but instead we go for an Icy Wind, and the opponent snipes with a Shadow Annihilate, and that is really bad for me. I'm going to come in with the Castform, of course, as we just can't tank those counters on my Auroras, and unfortunately again we get one turn bringing lag, meaning I do not reach that weather ball before, or at least on the CMP time there, meaning I take one more counter's worth of damage. We swap into Auroras, and that is massively devastating for me, as now they get the simultaneous KO. If I got one more Powder Snow through, I could have got the KO there, forced Credilli to use some energy, although I guess they probably would have outpaced me to back-to-back charge these regardless. But either way, GG's to that trainer into maybe the final battle with this team. We're going to lead into a Dragonair. Now, of course, I do have two ice types in the back. I probably should be swapping out, but I realized I can stay in and grab a shield advantage in this matchup. Now I'm going to swap into my Castform. Would be problematic for me if the opponent did have a really hard answer to Castform in the back, but they're going to go for a Wrap first and then swap into Corsola. So, of course, looking to debuff my defense, I'm going to go straight for Blizzard. Blizzard connects. It does big damage, but because of that defense drop, we unfortunately go down as we reach the weather ball there. So definitely painful for me, but I'm going to come in with my Auroras. I'm going to shield the first charge move, and let's see what they want to do. The opponent's going to full send a power gem there, meaning I can now swap and catch the next power gem onto my Sea King. And since they didn't have a direct response to Castform, they mustn't have a great answer to Auroras either, but they do have a Mud Slapper. But Auroras is so far ahead on energy. I'm going straight for Weather Ball. Weather Ball is going to be shielded. We're already at Weather Ball number 2. And Weather Ball from a Shadow Auroras up against Shadow Marowak does huge damage. It puts them into perfect farm down range. We're one away from the next Weather Ball, and of course, Weather Ball super effective. It takes out Shadow Dragonair, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there, and actually, I guess that wasn't the last battle with this team. This might be the last battle with this team. We are going to see a Pidgeot in the lead, so this time I'm actually going to swap out straight away here, as I can outpace them if they choose to stay in and look to go for a Feather Dance to drop my attack. Either way, I'm going to no shield. I don't really care what they throw. They actually go for an Air Cutter there, chipping with the Air Cutter before swapping into Hypno. Now, I'm going to fire off a Weather Ball. I could have committed to a Blizzard there, but if I did, the opponent would be outpacing me to a charge move, so instead, just going to go for back-to-back Weather Balls. Weather Ball number 2 does get them fairly low, and now I'm going to swap into my Sea King. Now, of course, Sea King is going to take super effective damage if they're on Thunder Punch, which they are, but it is a non-Shadow Hypno, so I do tank one. They're at back-to-back here, so I will shield the next charge move, and now they swap into Gastrodon. So here, I'm going to fire off the Icy Wind. Icy Wind is going to debuff their attack, and now I'm going to throw on really poor timing, but I thought the opponent would eventually throw a charge move, so of course, we go for Icy Wind. Icy Wind is going to grab the final shield, however, and now we can come in with Auroras. The opponent is not at back-to-back Water Pulses just yet, so I can shield the first one, and unless they make the catch there, I can go for one Powder Snow, fire off Weather Ball. Weather Ball gets the KO there, and of course, they've got Pidgeot and a very low HP Hypno, so I'm not going to throw straight away. The opponent tries to make the catch there. It does not work out. We get the perfect farm down. We come out with a Meteor Beam loaded. It doesn't matter what they throw. They don't have the energy for the Brave Bird, so of course, Meteor Beam will be connecting. It's a very hard-hitting move. It easily gets the one-shot up against the Pidgeot, and I'm able to take that game. Alright, so GG's to opponent there into the final team for this video. We are, of course, having the Shadow Hippowdon with Weather Ball as the Pokemon accompanying the Castform. And by the way, Castform does actually have 2 Weather Balls. It's got Weather Ball Rock and Weather Ball Normal, which does have stab damage. However, of course, it's the only Pokemon that learns Weather Ball Normal, so I couldn't keep up the theme if I went for that, whereas, of course, Hippowdon does also learn Weather Ball Rock there. And then we've got Shadow Zapdos in the lead. Now, unfortunately, Wigglytuff, a little bit awkward for me, but they are going to shield here. So at this point, they probably just don't have an answer to Castform. However, I'm going to be forced to let it go down there. I'm going to come in with my Hippowdon, and I will be able to go for a Sand Attack Farm Down, and let's see what they've got in the back. They're going to come in with a Shadow for Alligator, so potentially they've got 2 Pokemon that have Ghost-type Fast Move damage. Otherwise, of course, they would have swapped out there. I'm able to land a Scorching Sands. I'm now going to shield, as I do still have 2 shields in play, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Drifblim. So that explains why they did not swap out when I came in with the Castform, and why they actually shielded the Wigglytuff. But either way, I'm able to reach back-to-back Weather Balls. So spammy Shadow Hippowdon. Weather Ball number 2 does big damage here, and at this point, I could just commit to a full Thundershock Farm Down, but I've got the energy for the Drill Peck. I'm taking no risks. I'm going straight for Drill Peck. Of course, Drill Peck will be getting the KO here. One more Thundershock should be taking out the Feraligatr. The opponent is just going to waste my time by clearly exiting out of the app there. I'm able to Thundershock, farm them down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there, into the next battle, I see a Gastrodon in the lead. So, of course, this is a bit of an awkward matchup for me, and, well, awkward for them as well. Both hitting full resisted damage with the fast moves. Drillpeck is going to do big damage there, so I'm now going to swap into my Castform and force them to throw some energy, or swap out there. Either way, I'm happy to tank the damage on my Castform, and the opponent's now going to swap into a Shadow Fortress. Now, unfortunately, I don't think I will quite reach 3 Weatherables here, and since it is a Shadow, they are dealing quite a lot of damage with the fast moves. We're going to go for Weatherable number 2. Weatherball does get them into the yellow health range, but unfortunately, like I mentioned, we don't quite reach a 3rd, so they do get the perfect farm down. I'm going to come in with the Zapdos actually able to reach a Drill Peck here, and that also looks like a CMP tie. So Drill Peck does, of course, grab a shield, as now they're going to look to debuff my attack with a Rock Tomb. I'm going to swap out straight away, and the opponent does exactly the same thing. They come in with Galarian Corsola. I'm going straight for Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands does have a chance to debuff their attack, but unfortunately, we do not get that debuff there. I'm going to shield this. I've put them into range where even a Rock Weatherball non-stab will get the KO. I'm going to look to throw as late as possible here. Rock Weatherball is going to grab the final shield, and the opponent over farms perfectly. You can see we just got the energy for the next Weatherball. Nightshade gets the KO there. We can actually commit to a full Thundershock farm down with my Zapdos. But if they come back in with the Fortress, these Bug Bites, they are resisted damage, but unfortunately, Bug Bite gets the farm down there. We needed that farm down. If I throw a charge move, I believe Gastrodon had a Body Slam loaded anyways, so unfortunately, we do lose that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. The opponent is obviously core broken by Shadow Zapdos here and by electric types in general, as they swap out into a Bruxish, which is actually a pretty interesting Pokemon that I do want to take a look at for this season, as of course, Confusion mixed with Psychic Fangs and Arctel is a deadly combination. Either way, I'm going to fire off the Weatherball there, hoping Hex would get the farm down, and it does exactly that. They come back in with the Pidgeot, but that's fine with me. Castform, able to reach yet another Rock Weatherball there, and then I'm not going to swap into a Annihilate, which is unfortunate for me as they do get the full counter farm down, but I've got a shield advantage. Going to come back in with a Zapdos. I'm going to shield the charge move here as the opponent is going to go straight for Rage Fist. I'm now going to go straight for a Drill Peck, and then I will be swapping into my Hippowdon, as I'm actually not that confident that my Zapdos can reach another charge move before they counter farm me down, since they are boosted. But either way, the opponent swaps into their Pidgeot here, but they don't throw straight away, meaning I can go straight for Rock Weatherball. Weatherball gets the KO there. They come back in with the Annihilate, and I will be outpacing them to the next charge move, and of course, from this range, Scorching Sands takes out Annihilate, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Shadow Zapdos into Shadow Murkrow. So this is a great matchup for me. The opponent's going to be safe swapping into Credilli, and unfortunately, I don't really have a great response here. So I'm going to go straight for a Drill Peck, grab a shield. Now I'm swapping into Hippowdon. Hopefully, this will force them to go for Grass Knots here, and the opponent doesn't bait. They do full send the Grass Knot. Now, unfortunately, Hippowdon not only going to hit for neutral damage here with the Weatherballs and the Scorching Sands. They can no-shield that, and I actually don't know if that even puts them into Sand Attack farm down range, but I'm going to shield anyways. They go for a second Grass Knot. They come in with the Murkrow, and potentially I should have overfarmed slightly more than I did, but either way, Rock Weatherball grabs a shield there, and the opponent looking to throw on CMP. So very good timing. They also overfarmed by 1. I believe Murkrow also should be winning CMP up against my Shadow Zapdos. So we're going to come in, and I'm going to look to try and make a catch onto my Castform. The opponent goes for Drill Peck there, even though Drill Peck will be resisted up against the Zapdos. Of course, Drill Peck is such a good move. Up against Zapdos, it probably KOs. Anyways, I was hoping to catch a foul play there, just because it is, of course, not going to deal as much damage. And of course, because they went for Drill Peck there, I don't quite reach an Energy Ball, and that is huge for the opponent. Energy Ball is double super effective. Oh, I would have done so much damage there, but unfortunately, the resisted Rock Weatherball does not put them into range where a Drill Peck will get the KO. And of course, Water Pulse takes out the Zapdos there, and I do end up losing that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. I'm going to see a Goodra in the lead. So a bit of an awkward matchup for me. I'm going to be swapping into my Castform immediately here. And I'm not going to throw straight away. The opponent actually throws on poor timing, allowing me to get a full Hex in for free. They fire off the Octel. They're going to swap out after banking slightly more energy, but they swap into Fortress. This time it's a non-shadow, and they're actually on Volt Switch. So whilst I will reach 3 Weatherballs, Weatherball won't be enough damage to put them into range where 3 will get the KO here. So we're going to go for a third Weatherball. Weather Ball number 3 is going to be no shielded, but I do put them into very low HP, and actually, they allow me to reach yet another Weather Ball. Weather Ball number 4 grabs a shield there. They still can't commit to farm down, recognizing I'm actually going to get the Hex farm down, but they do farm to 100 energy, so I'm going to swap into Hippowdon here, sponge the damage from a Rock Tomb. Of course, they do debuff my attack there. And they're running a double bug and steel backline. I look to throw on CMP, but they don't throw straight away. So Scorching Sands is going to grab a shield there. I'm swapping into my Shadow Zapdos, and I believe Goodra does have a little bit of residual energy, so I'm not going to look to throw on CMP. I actually don't know who wins CMP in this matchup. It's probably quite close, but just to play it safe here, I'm going to bank the energy. They come back in with the Goodra, but we do have residual energy now. Drill Peck does big damage, and we reach a second Drill Peck just in the nick of time here. Drill Peck gets the KO, and now once again I don't know who wins CMP, so I'm going to swap out. I'm making the catch onto Shadow Hippowdon. The opponent is going to go for an undercharge there. That is the right play, but unfortunately for them, it's not enough, as we do have that Drill Peck locked and loaded. Drill Peck will be enough damage to take out Shadow Sizzle, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up there into the final battle of this video, and thank you to anyone who is still watching at this point. Of course, I know this is a longer video than usual, but I appreciate the support. Of course, there is a lot of variety in this video, so hopefully you guys have stuck around. Maybe leave a comment if you have made it this far into the video, but either way, we are going to see a great lead matchup for me. The opponent is leading with Empoleon. They're going to swap into... what the hell? They're going to swap into Altara. You can tell it's a long video because I am making so many... stutters that it's just ridiculous, but either way, we're going to go for back-to-back Weather Balls here. Weather Ball number 1 does decent damage. A second Weather Ball unfortunately won't quite get the KO here, so Weather Ball number 2 gonna be no shielded, and they're saving their shields for their final Pokemon. Unfortunately, I'm not quite at another Weather Ball, so I will swap out here if they don't get the KO, and they swap into Togekiss. Now I'm going to go and overfarm just a little bit, fire off the Weather Ball. Weather Ball is going to be shielded by the opponent, and they're going to look to throw on CMP, but we end up losing. Now here I make a huge mistake. I don't know why I shielded that. I expected Aura Sphere. Aura Sphere does not get the KO there. I need to save a shield for my Zapdos, and unfortunately the opponent is now going to make a brilliant catch there, catching the Rock Weather Ball onto Altaria. This is now unfortunately going to be game over, unless I'm able to make a catch of my own, which I'm not able to do. The opponent fires off the Aura Sphere here, and my only win condition basically is if the opponent is only running Aura Sphere, because of course that would be resisted into Zapdos, but they don't throw straight away here. Now this is actually a really tricky situation for the opponent. They had to commit to the Peck there, predicting I would try and make a catch, but of course if I just stayed in with my Zapdos, I get the Thundershock farm down. So insane play, insane read by the opponent, and unfortunately I do lose that final game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.